Commander Jake Morrison stared out at the endless stars through the viewport of the starship Pioneer. The vessel hummed quietly as it moved through space, its engines pushing them further from Earth than any human had ever traveled before. Jake had trained for this moment his entire life, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of deep space exploration. "Commander, we're picking up something on the sensors," called out Lisa Grant from the pilot's seat. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she tried to make sense of the readings. "It's big and it's definitely not one of ours." Kevin Clark looked up from his engineering station, his face showing concern. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've seen before. Whatever it is, it's using technology we don't understand." Amy Brooks, the mission's lead scientist, was already analyzing the data. "The readings suggest it's a spacecraft, but the design principles are completely foreign to us. We should proceed with caution." Jake nodded and walked to the center of the bridge. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. "All stations prepare for first contact protocols. Lisa, take us closer but keep our distance. I want to see what we're dealing with." The alien ship came into view slowly, its sleek silver hull reflecting the light of nearby stars. It was beautiful in a way that human ships were not, with curves and flowing lines that suggested a completely different approach to engineering. The vessel was at least 3 times the size of the Pioneer, and it moved with a grace that made their own ship seem clumsy in comparison. "They're scanning us," Kevin reported, his voice tight with tension. "Multiple energy beams are sweeping over our hull. I don't think they're weapons, but I can't be sure." Before Jake could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A strange melodic voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them had ever heard. The universal translator, one of humanity's newest inventions, worked frantically to decode the message. "Greetings, small vessel. This is Trade Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian Trade Confederation. We have not encountered your species before. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions in this sector." Jake took a deep breath and activated the communication system. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Pioneer. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other civilizations." There was a long pause before Veltar responded. "Earth? We have no record of this world in our databases. Your technology appears primitive by galactic standards. Are you perhaps a colony ship that has lost its way?" The word stung, but Jake kept his voice steady. "We are explorers from our homeworld, Earth. We have only recently developed the ability to travel between stars." "Ah, a young species then." Veltar's voice carried a tone that Jake recognized as condescending, even through the translator. "How fascinating. You must have just discovered faster-than-light travel. Your ship's design suggests you are still using combustion-based propulsion systems." Amy caught Jake's eye and shook her head slightly. The alien was wrong about their technology, but she was clearly suggesting they should not correct him. Jake understood immediately and continued the conversation as if Veltar's assessment was accurate. "Yes, we are still learning. We would be grateful for any guidance you might offer to a young civilization." "Of course, young ones. It is the duty of advanced species to guide those who are just beginning to reach for the stars. Perhaps we can arrange a meeting. Our ship has docking facilities that should accommodate your vessel." An hour later, Jake found himself walking through corridors that seemed to be carved from a single piece of crystal. The Zephyrian ship was a marvel of engineering, with systems that operated on principles he could barely comprehend. Veltar was waiting for them in what appeared to be a conference room, his tall, slender form draped in flowing robes. The Zephyrian captain looked exactly as the briefing materials had suggested aliens might look, with large eyes and elongated features that gave him an otherworldly appearance. He moved with fluid grace and spoke with the confidence of someone accustomed to dealing with primitive species. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Wind," Veltar said, gesturing for them to sit at a table that seemed to be made of the same crystal material as the walls. "I must say, it is rare to encounter a species so early in their development. Most civilizations we meet have already been part of the galactic community for centuries." "We are honored by this meeting," Jake replied carefully. "Our people have much to learn about the galaxy and our place in it." Veltar smiled, an expression that seemed genuine despite the alien features. "Indeed you do. The galaxy is vast and filled with wonders beyond your current understanding. There are 3 major powers that maintain order among the stars. The Corvin Empire controls much of the military might. The Ethereal Collective holds ancient knowledge and wisdom, and we of the Zephyrian Trade Confederation facilitate commerce between worlds. It sounds like a complex system, Amy observed. It has worked for thousands of years, Veltar explained. Young species like yours typically find their place as client worlds, providing resources and labor in exchange for protection and technology. It is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Kevin shifted uncomfortably in his seat. And what happens to species that don't wish to become client worlds? Such situations are rare, Veltar said dismissively. Most civilizations recognize the benefits of joining the established order. Those that do not usually find themselves at a significant disadvantage. The meeting continued for several hours, with Veltar explaining the basics of galactic civilization and trade. He offered to arrange formal first contact with Earth's government and suggested that humanity would benefit greatly from Zephyrian guidance and protection. As they returned to the Pioneer, Jake felt a mixture of excitement and unease. They had made contact with an alien civilization, something that would change humanity forever. But Veltar's assumptions about their primitive nature and his casual dismissal of species that did not conform troubled him. "What do you think?" he asked his crew once they were safely back aboard their own ship. "They think we're harmless," Lisa said bluntly. "Primitive and easily controlled." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Amy suggested quietly. "At least not until we understand what we're really dealing with." Jake nodded slowly. The galaxy was clearly a complex and potentially dangerous place. Perhaps it was better to be underestimated than to be seen as a threat. For now, humanity would play the role of the grateful primitive species, learning what they could while keeping their true capabilities hidden. Back on Earth, Admiral Rick Davis received Jake's initial report with interest. The galaxy was far more complex than they had imagined, with established powers and ancient rivalries. President Carol Stone called an emergency session of the Global Council to discuss humanity's response to first contact. The decision was unanimous. Earth would engage with the galactic community cautiously, appearing grateful and harmless while secretly preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy thought Earth was just another primitive world, and for now that was exactly what humanity wanted them to believe. 6 months had passed since first contact, and Captain Ben Hayes watched as alien cargo containers were loaded onto his ship, the Freedom. The trading post orbiting the small moon of Kepler 442c looked like any other frontier settlement, with basic structures and simple equipment that reinforced humanity's image as a struggling young civilization. "Another shipment of rare metals heading to Earth," said his cargo officer, Pete Wilson, checking the manifest. "The Zephyrians seem happy with these trades. They get our raw materials and we get their basic technology." Ben nodded but said nothing. What Pete didn't know was that hidden within those cargo containers were sophisticated scanning devices and data storage units. Every piece of alien technology that came through human space was being carefully studied and analyzed. His sister, Kate Hayes, commanded the science vessel Discovery, which was officially conducting basic stellar surveys in the Outer Rim territories. In reality, her ship was equipped with some of the most advanced sensors humanity had ever built, disguised to look like primitive scanning equipment. "Ben, this is Kate," came her voice over the secure communication channel. "We've just finished our survey of the Rigel sector. The official report shows basic mineral deposits and uninhabitable worlds. The real findings are quite different," Ben understood. Kate had discovered something significant, but they couldn't discuss it over open channels. The aliens monitored human communications, expecting nothing more than simple trade reports and colonization updates. Back on Earth, Dr. Alex Turner worked in a laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility didn't officially exist, and the work being done there would have shocked the galactic community. Turner's team had not only reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology they could acquire, but they had also improved upon it significantly. "The Zephyrian power cells are impressive," Turner explained to Lieutenant Colonel Steve Miller, who had arrived for his weekly briefing. "But their energy conversion efficiency is only about 60%. We've managed to push ours to over 90%. Miller studied the data with the eye of a military strategist. "What about their weapons and defensive systems?" "Interesting but flawed," Turner replied, pulling up holographic displays of alien weapon designs. "They rely heavily on energy shields that can be overwhelmed with the right frequency modulation. Their projectile weapons use a predictable firing pattern that could be easily countered. Miller made notes on his tablet. He had been tasked with analyzing galactic military capabilities and developing countermeasures. What he had discovered was both encouraging and disturbing. The major powers of the galaxy had become comfortable with their superiority and had not innovated in centuries. Commander Nina Walsh led Earth's intelligence operations throughout human space. Her agents worked as traders, diplomats, and colonists while gathering information about alien civilizations and their military capabilities. The picture that emerged was troubling. The Corvan Empire is expanding again, she reported during a secure conference call with Earth's leadership. They've taken 3 more systems in the past month, always targeting weaker species that can't defend themselves. President Carol Stone listened grimly as the reports came in. What about the other powers? Are they responding to Corvan aggression? The Ethereal Collective remains aloof, Admiral Davis replied. They claim to be above such conflicts and only intervene when their own interests are threatened. The Zephyrian Trade Confederation profits from both sides, selling weapons to the Corvans and refugee assistance to their victims. The galactic community, it seemed, had accepted a brutal status quo where might made right, and the weak existed only at the sufferance of the strong. It was a system that went against everything humanity believed in, but for now, they were too small and seemingly too weak to challenge it. Dr. Turner's research had revealed something else about their alien neighbors. Despite their advanced technology, they had become stagnant. The Zephyrians had been using the same basic designs for over 1,000 years. The Corvans relied on brute force rather than innovation. Even the ancient ethereals seemed to have stopped pushing the boundaries of science and technology. They've become comfortable, Turner explained to a gathering of Earth's top scientists and military leaders. When you're the dominant species in the galaxy, there's no pressure to improve. They've forgotten how to adapt and innovate. This was humanity's secret advantage. Earth had never known peace for long. Wars, natural disasters, economic collapses, and social upheavals had forced humans to constantly adapt and improve. Every generation had faced challenges that required new solutions and innovative thinking. Captain Dan Collins commanded the merchant vessel Ranger, which operated in the disputed territories near Corvan space. Officially, his mission was to establish new trading relationships with independent worlds. In reality, he was documenting Corvan military movements and capabilities. Their tactics haven't changed in decades, he reported during a coded transmission to Earth. They rely on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. Their commanders follow predictable patterns that could be exploited with the right strategy. Hidden shipyards and asteroid belts throughout human space were busy constructing a new generation of warships. These vessels looked like upgraded versions of humanity's existing designs, but appearances were deceiving. They incorporated alien technology that had been improved beyond its original specifications, combined with human innovations that the galaxy had never seen. The battleship Defiant was Admiral Paul Martinez's flagship, though few people knew it existed. Hidden in a hollowed-out asteroid in the Centauri system, the ship represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. Its weapons could penetrate any known shielding system. Its armor could withstand attacks that would destroy conventional warships, and its speed exceeded anything in the galactic databases. Major Lisa Patterson trained her Marines in combat techniques designed specifically for fighting alien species. Each major galactic power had different physiologies and fighting styles, and her soldiers learned to exploit every weakness they could identify. The Corvans are strong but slow, she explained to her troops during a training exercise. Their armor has weak points at the joints, and their weapons have a limited rate of fire. The Zephyrians rely too heavily on their personal shields and become helpless when the shields fail. Captain Tony Clark led the development of humanity's stealth technology. His experimental ships could move undetected through space, invisible to the sensors that galactic powers relied upon. The technology was based on principles that alien scientists had dismissed as impossible centuries ago. They stopped questioning their assumptions. Clark explained to his engineering team. They decided certain things couldn't be done, so they never tried to do them. We don't have those limitations. Commander Roy White's electronic warfare specialist had developed techniques for hacking alien computer systems. The galactic powers had become so confident in their technological superiority that their security systems were designed to stop primitive attacks, not sophisticated infiltration by an advanced opponent. Earth's colonies appeared to be struggling frontier settlements, barely able to sustain themselves without constant supply runs from the home world. Alien observers noted that human technology seemed to stagnate, showing no signs of rapid development or military buildup. The facade was perfect. While the galaxy saw humanity as a primitive species slowly adapting to galactic civilization, Earth was actually preparing for something much larger. Every trade agreement, every diplomatic meeting, and every seemingly innocent scientific survey was part of a careful plan to understand their new neighbors and prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. President Stone addressed the Global Council as reports of increasing Corvan aggression reached Earth. "We cannot remain neutral forever," she warned. "The galaxy is moving toward a crisis, and we must be ready to act when the time comes." The time would come sooner than anyone expected. In the Meridian system, the peaceful Aquarian species went about their daily lives, unaware that Corvan war fleets were already moving toward their worlds. The galaxy was about to witness something that would change everything, and humanity would no longer be able to hide in the shadows. Captain Dan Collins was running routine maintenance checks on the Ranger when the first Corvan warships dropped out of hyperspace above the peaceful world of Aquaria Prime. The blue-green planet had been home to the gentle Aquarian species for thousands of years, a civilization known throughout the galaxy for their art, philosophy, and complete lack of military forces. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy signatures," called out his sensor operator, Jerry Brooks. "Multiple Corvan battlecruisers just entered the system. They're not responding to hails from the planet." Dan rushed to the bridge and saw the sight that would haunt him for the rest of his life. 30 Corvan warships hung in space above Aquaria Prime like dark birds of prey. The planet's orbital defense platforms, designed for asteroid deflection rather than warfare, were being systematically destroyed. "They're not even giving them a chance to surrender," whispered his communications officer, Linda Torres, as she monitored the transmissions from the planet below. The Aquarians were broadcasting on all frequencies, pleading for mercy and offering to comply with any Corvan demands. Their voices carried desperation and confusion as they tried to understand why they were being attacked. They had no enemies, no valuable resources that couldn't be obtained through trade, and no strategic importance to anyone. The Corvan response was swift and merciless. Orbital bombardment platforms opened fire on the major cities below. Ancient centers of learning and art that had stood for millennia were reduced to glowing craters in a matter of minutes. The death toll was beyond counting as billions of innocent beings died in the first hour of the attack. "We have to do something," Dan said, his hands gripping the armrests of his command chair. "Sir, we're just a cargo ship," replied his first officer, Mark Davis. "We have no weapons that could threaten a Corvan warship. They would destroy us without even noticing." Dan knew Mark was right, but he couldn't stand by and watch genocide unfold before his eyes. "All hands, prepare for emergency rescue operations. We're going to save as many as we can." The Ranger dove toward the planet's surface, using the chaos of the bombardment to mask their approach. Dan's crew worked frantically to pull survivors from burning cities and destroyed settlements. They filled every available space on the ship with refugees, including the cargo holds and even the engine compartments. Elder Mira, the spiritual leader of the Aquarian people, was among the survivors they rescued from the ruins of the capital city. Her large dark eyes held a sadness that seemed to encompass the tragedy of her entire species. "Why?" she asked Dan as they carried her aboard the Ranger. "We have done nothing to harm them. We have no weapons, no armies. Why would they destroy us?" Dan had no answer. The attack made no strategic sense and served no purpose other than to demonstrate Corvan power. It was genocide for its own sake, a message to the galaxy that the Empire could destroy anyone they chose. The rescue operation continued for 6 hours before Corvan patrol ships began to take notice of the human vessel. Dan was forced to retreat as energy bolts erupted around his ship, carrying nearly 3,000 Aquarian survivors, but leaving millions more to die on the burning world below. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks, during which Dan's crew did everything they could to care for their passengers. The Aquarians were a peaceful species, unprepared for the trauma they had experienced. Many of them simply sat in silence, staring at nothing as their minds tried to process the loss of everything they had ever known. When the Ranger arrived at Earth's primary space station, the footage of the Aquarian genocide spread throughout human space within hours. President Carol Stone called an emergency session of the Global Council. And for the first time since first contact, the discussion was not about trade agreements or diplomatic protocols. "We cannot allow this to continue," President Stone declared, her voice carrying the anger and determination of an entire species. "The galaxy may accept such brutality as normal, but humanity will not stand by while innocent beings are slaughtered." Admiral Rick Davis understood the implications of the president's words. "If we act against the Corvan Empire, we'll be revealing our true capabilities. There will be no going back to our role as a harmless primitive species." "Then so be it," Stone replied. "Some things are more important than maintaining our cover. We cannot call ourselves civilized if we allow genocide to go unpunished." The Global Council voted unanimously to intervene. Earth would no longer hide behind the facade of primitive technology and limited capabilities. Humanity was about to reveal its true nature to the galaxy, regardless of the consequences. Admiral Davis activated Protocol 7, a plan that had been years in the making. Throughout human space, hidden installations came online and revealed their true nature. Asteroid mining operations were actually military shipyards. Scientific research stations were intelligence-gathering centers. Even the seemingly struggling colonies were heavily fortified bases with advanced defensive systems. The Corvan Empire, confident in their recent victory, began planning their next target. Fleet Commander Drakthul reviewed the strategic options with his subordinates, looking for another world that would serve as an example to potential rebels. "The human territories are expanding," noted one of his officers. "Perhaps we should demonstrate our power by destroying one of their colonies. It would send a message to other primitive species that they serve at our pleasure." Drakthul considered the suggestion. Intelligence reports suggested that humanity had fewer than 100 warships, most of them converted cargo vessels with limited combat capability. It would be an easy victory that would barely require a full battle fleet. "Prepare a squadron," Drakthul ordered. "We will sweep through their space and remind these humans of their place in the galactic order." Lieutenant Sarah King led a squadron of human fighters to intercept the Corvan advance force at the edge of the Sol system. Her pilots flew ships that looked like upgraded versions of humanity's first-generation fighters, but appearances were deceiving. Each craft incorporated technology that surpassed anything in the Corvan arsenal. "Remember your training," Sarah told her pilots over the communication channel. "We're about to show the galaxy what humans can do when we stop pretending to be harmless." The Corvan squadron consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and their escort fighters, more than enough firepower to destroy any primitive human fleet. Commander Vectar, leading the Corvan force, expected to complete his mission within an hour and return home with news of another easy victory. "Human vessels detected," reported his tactical officer. 24 small fighter craft approaching our position. They appear to be requesting communication." Vectar activated the communication system, planning to offer the humans a chance to surrender before he destroyed them. "Human craft, you are trespassing in space claimed by the Corvan Empire. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Sarah's response was broadcast on all frequencies so that every listening post in the sector could hear it. "This is Lieutenant Sarah King of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered human space without authorization and committed acts of genocide against peaceful species. Surrender now or face the consequences." Vectar laughed, a sound that carried clearly through the communication system. "Foolish primitives. You will learn the price of defying the Empire." The Battle of Titan's Gate began with what the Corvans expected to be a simple massacre of primitive fighters. Instead, they encountered something that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth had been hiding far more than anyone imagined. As the first shots were fired, monitoring stations throughout the sector watched in amazement. The small human fighters moved with impossible speed and agility, their weapons cutting through Corvan shields as if they didn't exist. Within minutes, it became clear that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. The quiet little species from the primitive world called Earth was about to demonstrate why they had spent so long preparing in secret. The galaxy would never be the same. The first Corvan heavy cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. Commander Vectar stared at his tactical display in disbelief as the symbol representing the warship Dominator simply vanished from his screens. "What happened?" he demanded, his voice tight with shock. "The human fighters, sir," replied his tactical officer, his own voice shaking. They penetrated our shields with some kind of enhanced plasma weapon. The Dominator's armor was completely useless against it. Lieutenant Sarah King's voice crackled over the communication channel, calm and professional despite the chaos of battle. "Corvin vessels, this is your final warning. Stand down immediately or we will continue to defend ourselves." Vectar activated his fleet-wide communication system. "All ships destroy the primitive fighters. Show them the price of defying the Empire." The Corvin squadron opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space as they tried to target the human fighters. But the small ships moved like nothing the Corvins had ever encountered, twisting and turning through the weapons fire as if they could predict where each shot would go. Captain Tony Clark's stealth squadron chose that moment to decloak. 6 human destroyers appeared from nowhere, their advanced cloaking systems more sophisticated than anything the galaxy had seen. The Corvin sensors had detected nothing until the ships were already opening fire at point-blank range. "Impossible," Vectar whispered, as 2 more of his cruisers were destroyed in the first salvo. Stealth technology was proven to be impractical centuries ago. The energy requirements alone should make it impossible. Major Lisa Patterson's Marine boarding parties used teleportation technology to appear directly on the bridge of the Corvin flagship. The Empire's warriors were skilled and experienced, but they had never faced opponents who could materialize behind their defensive lines without warning. "Surrender your vessel," Patterson ordered Vectar, her weapon trained on the Corvin commander. "Your fleet is defeated and your mission has failed." The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. Of the 12 Corvin heavy cruisers that had entered the system, 10 were destroyed and 2 were captured intact. The Empire's escort fighters had been swept from space so quickly that some of them never had a chance to fire their weapons. The galactic monitoring stations that had been watching the battle transmitted the footage. Throughout the civilized galaxy within hours, every major power received detailed recordings of human fighters moving at impossible speeds, weapons that cut through the Empire's best armor, and stealth technology that shouldn't exist. Admiral Paul Martinez aboard the flagship Defiant received reports from across human space as the news spread. "The Ethereal Collective has requested an immediate meeting," his communication officer reported. "The Zephyrian Trade Confederation is asking for clarification of our military capabilities. And, sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Corvin-occupied worlds." Martinez nodded grimly. "Signal President Stone that Phase 2 is authorized. It's time to show the galaxy who we really are." Dr. Alex Turner appeared on every communication network in the galaxy simultaneously, his message being broadcast from hidden transmitters that had been placed throughout space over the past 6 months. The galactic powers had never suspected that the primitive humans had been building a communication network more advanced than their own. "Citizens of the galaxy," Turner began, his voice calm and measured. "I am Dr. Alex Turner of Earth. For the past 6 months you have known humanity as a primitive species, grateful for the guidance of more advanced civilizations. Today we reveal the truth. Holographic displays showed the technical specifications of human technology, weapons that exceeded galactic standards, and ships that could outperform anything in known space." But Turner's message went deeper than simple military capability. "We are not primitives," he continued. "We are survivors. Every human invention was born from necessity, refined through conflict and perfected through the determination to protect what we hold dear. Our weapons were designed to defend the innocent. Our ships were built to carry hope to distant stars. Our soldiers were trained to stand between the strong and the weak." The footage from Aquaria Prime appeared on screens throughout the galaxy, showing the destruction of an entire civilization and the human rescue efforts that followed. Turner's voice carried quiet anger as he described what they had witnessed. "We watched the Corvin Empire destroy billions of innocent beings for no reason other than to demonstrate their power. We listened as the galactic community discussed trade routes while refugees fled burning worlds. We saw the strong prey upon the weak while those with the power to intervene chose to look away." Commander Roy, White's electronic warfare specialist, had spent months infiltrating the communication networks of every major galactic power. As Turner spoke, classified documents appeared on screens throughout Corvin space, revealing the Empire's plans for future genocides and the locations of concentration camps where survivors of previous attacks were being held. "The Corvin Empire calls this normal," Turner said as the images of suffering filled screens across the galaxy. "The Ethereal Collective calls it inevitable." The Zephyrian Trade Confederation calls it profitable, humanity calls it evil, and we will not stand for it. Trade Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian Confederation watched Turner's broadcast from his private quarters, his mind racing to understand the implications. The humans he had dismissed as primitive had been gathering intelligence and building capabilities far beyond anything he had imagined. How did we miss this? He asked his aide, who was frantically trying to update their files on human capabilities. They wanted us to miss it, the aide replied. Every interaction was carefully planned to reinforce our assumptions about their primitive nature. They played the role of grateful students while secretly surpassing their teachers. Ancient Prime Zarthul of the Ethereal Collective had not felt surprise in over 1,000 years. But Turner's revelation shook him to his core. The Ethereals had dismissed humanity as another young species that would follow the established patterns of galactic civilization. Instead, they had encountered something unprecedented. They hid their true nature for months, Zarthul said to his council of advisors. They allowed us to underestimate them while they learned everything about us. The strategic patience alone suggests a level of sophistication we did not anticipate. Turner's broadcast continued as he explained humanity's philosophy and intentions. We do not seek to conquer the galaxy or impose our will upon other species. We seek only to ensure that the strong protect the weak, that the innocent are defended from those who would harm them, and that civilization means more than the right of the powerful to dominate the powerless. The response from the galactic community was immediate and varied. Some species that had lived under Corvan oppression began to rebel, inspired by humanity's example, and aided by weapons that human agents had been secretly distributing for months. Other civilizations demanded to know more about human capabilities and intentions. War Marshal Thekvar, supreme commander of the Corvan military, reviewed the intelligence reports with growing alarm. How many ships do they have? He demanded. Unknown, sir, replied his intelligence chief. Our estimates were based on deliberate misinformation. They could have 10 ships or 10,000. We simply don't know. What about their technology? Superior to ours in every measurable category. Their weapons, shields, engines, and sensors all exceed our capabilities. And, sir, they've demonstrated technologies we thought were impossible. Thekvar studied the tactical assessments, trying to understand how the Empire could respond to this new threat. The humans had revealed abilities that changed the entire strategic balance of the galaxy, and they had done it while maintaining perfect operational security for months. President Carol Stone appeared alongside Turner in the final segment of the broadcast, addressing the galaxy as the leader of humanity. Earth extends an offer of friendship to all species that share our values of peace, justice, and mutual respect. To those who prey upon the innocent, we offer this warning. Your victims are no longer defenseless. The broadcast ended, but its effects would ripple through galactic civilization for years to come. Humanity had revealed itself not as conquerors or destroyers, but as guardians of a higher standard of civilization. The galaxy had assumed that might made right, because that was how things had always been. Now they faced a species that believed right made might, and had the power to enforce that belief throughout the stars. The quiet little planet called Earth had been hiding a secret that would reshape the galaxy, and there was no going back to the way things were before. The age of unchallenged galactic tyranny was ending, and the era of humanity's guardianship had begun. 3 months after the Battle of Titan's Gate, Captain Joe Harper stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmony as it approached the ethereal homeworld of Zephyros Prime. The ancient planet glowed with a soft blue light that came from the massive crystal formations that covered its surface. For the first time in their millennia-long history, the Ethereals had requested a meeting with a younger species. Magnificent, whispered his cultural advisor, Rachel Stone, as she watched the planet grow larger on the viewing screen. According to our files, no non-ethereal has set foot on that world in over 5,000 years. The ethereal escort ships that guided them to the surface were works of art, as much as they were spacecraft. Their hulls seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted color as they moved through space. Joe had expected advanced technology from the ethereals, but the reality exceeded his imagination. Ancient Prime Zarthul waited for them in a chamber that defied human understanding of physics. The walls appeared to extend infinitely in all directions, yet Joe could sense the boundaries of the room. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Commander Harper of Earth, Zarthul said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Joe's bones. Your species has accomplished something we believed impossible. You have changed the fundamental nature of galactic civilization in a matter of months. Joe maintained his diplomatic composure, despite the awe he felt in the presence of such an ancient being. We have simply revealed what we believe civilization should be. The changes come from species choosing to embrace those ideals. Indeed, Zarthul replied, his massive form shifting slightly as he considered Joe's words. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for eons, always following the same patterns of conquest and domination. We had concluded that such cycles were inevitable, part of the natural order. Your species suggests otherwise. The liberation of Corvin-occupied worlds had proceeded faster than anyone had expected. General Chris Moore led the combined human and alien liberation forces that swept through Empire space, meeting little resistance from demoralized Corvin troops. Many Imperial units surrendered without firing a shot, when they realized they were facing human military advisors and advanced weapons. The Corvin ground forces are collapsing everywhere, Moore reported during a secure communication with Earth Command. Their entire military doctrine was based on intimidating primitive opponents. When faced with organized resistance backed by superior technology, they have no idea how to respond. Captain Eddie Stone's special forces had captured War Marshal Thekvar himself during the final assault on the Imperial capital world. The supreme commander of the Corvin military, who had struck fear into the hearts of countless species, had been defeated by a small team of human soldiers using tactics he had never encountered. How? Thekvar asked during his interrogation, his voice hollow with defeat. How did a primitive species develop such capabilities? Eddie studied the fallen war marshal with something approaching pity. We were never primitive. We just let you think we were. While you were comfortable with your superiority, we were learning everything we could about you and preparing for the day when we would need to act. The Corvin Empire's collapse sent shockwaves through the galaxy as subject species threw off their chains and demanded independence. The humans provided weapons, military advisors, and logistical support to any species that wanted to fight for their freedom. Within 6 months, the empire that had dominated a quarter of the galaxy for centuries had been reduced to its core worlds. President Stone announced the formation of the Terran Alliance from the steps of the United Nations building on Earth. The ceremony was broadcast throughout human space and to the billions of beings who had been liberated from Corvin oppression. The Terran Alliance is founded on the principle that all sentient beings have the right to freedom and self-determination. Stone declared to the assembled representatives of dozens of species, we offer membership to any civilization that shares our commitment to peace, justice, and mutual cooperation. The Alliance's first members included the Aquarian refugees who had survived the genocide, former Corvin subjects who had won their independence, and even some Zephyrian colonies that had broken away from the Trade Confederation. Admiral Rick Davis became the Alliance's first Supreme Commander, tasked with building a military force dedicated to protection rather than conquest. The Zephyrian Trade Confederation struggled to adapt to the new galactic reality. Many of their most profitable trade routes had been disrupted by the collapse of the Corvin Empire, and their business model of selling weapons to oppressors while providing aid to victims was no longer acceptable to much of the galaxy. Trade Captain Veltar found himself reassigned to establish new commercial relationships with the emerging Alliance worlds. The humans have fundamentally changed the rules of galactic commerce, he explained to his superiors. Species that were once forced to accept unfavorable trade agreements now have alternatives. We must adapt or become irrelevant. Dr. Turner led the scientific exchange program between Earth and the Ethereal Collective, the most ambitious research project in galactic history. The ancient aliens shared knowledge accumulated over millions of years, while humans contributed their unique perspective on innovation and adaptation. Your species approaches problems in ways we had never considered, explained ethereal scientist Telmira during one of their joint research sessions. We had become fixed in our thinking, believing that certain technologies were impossible because we had tried them once and failed. You show us that failure is merely the first step toward success. The joint research produced breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved alone. Faster-than-light communication became practical on a galactic scale. Medical treatments that had seemed impossible became routine. Energy production methods that could power entire civilizations, with minimal environmental impact, were developed and shared freely throughout Alliance space. Captain Tony Clark's stealth. Technology was reverse-engineered and improved by ethereal scientists, leading to exploration vessels that could travel undetected through the most dangerous regions of space. Commander Roy White's electronic warfare. Techniques were combined with ethereal quantum computing to create defensive systems that could protect entire star systems from attack. The galaxy's political landscape was transformed as the Alliance grew from a handful of human worlds to a confederation of hundreds of species. The principles of mutual respect and cooperative defense attracted civilizations that had never before been able to work together effectively, but not everyone welcomed the changes humanity had brought to the galaxy. Remnants of the Corvan military regrouped in the Outer Rim territories, launching terrorist attacks against Alliance worlds. Zephyrian hardliners who had profited from the old system of exploitation funded mercenary groups to destabilize the new governments. We always knew there would be resistance. Admiral Davis told his senior staff during a strategy meeting, "There are always those who profit from injustice and oppression. Our job is to ensure that they cannot return the galaxy to the Dark Ages." The Alliance's response to these threats demonstrated humanity's commitment to their ideals. Rather than launching genocidal campaigns like the old Corvan Empire, they focused on precise military strikes that minimized civilian casualties while capturing or eliminating the leadership of terrorist organizations. Major Lisa Patterson's Marines became legendary throughout the galaxy for their ability to rescue hostages and protect civilians even in the most dangerous combat situations. "We fight to protect, not to conquer," became their motto, and their actions lived up to those words. Captain Dan Collins, the man who had rescued the Aquarian refugees and sparked humanity's intervention in galactic affairs, was chosen to lead the Alliance's first expedition beyond the Galactic Rim. The mission was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted, seeking to explore the vast unknown regions of space that lay beyond the borders of known civilization. "We go not as conquerors, but as explorers," Collins told his crew as the exploration fleet prepared to depart. "Our mission is to learn, to discover, and to ensure that whatever we find out there, the principles of justice and cooperation go with us." Admiral Jake Morrison, the man who had led humanity's first contact with alien civilization, now commanded the Alliance's Deep Space Exploration Division. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, he reflected on how much had changed since that first meeting with Trade Captain Veltar. "The galaxy thought we were harmless because we chose to let them think so," he mused to his first officer. "We could have revealed our capabilities from the beginning, but then we would have been seen as just another threat to be contained or destroyed." By appearing weak, we learned who our friends and enemies really were. The exploration fleet departed from Earth on the anniversary of first contact, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of countless species. Their mission was to push the boundaries of known space and ensure that humanity's children would inherit a galaxy where the strong protected the weak and justice was more than just an ideal. As the ships disappeared into hyperspace, President Stone addressed the